Let us now continue our worship in the hearing of God's holy word. Would somebody read for us Proverbs chapter 8 and 9?
Does not wisdom call out? Does not understanding raise her voice? At the highest point along the way where the paths meet, she takes her stand. Beside the gate leading into the city, at the entrance she cries aloud. To you, O people, I call out. I raise my voice to all mankind. You who are simple, gain prudence. You who are foolish, set your hearts on it. Listen, for I have trustworthy things to say. I open my lips to speak what is right. My mouth speaks what is true, for my lips detest wickedness. All the words of my mouth are just. None of them is crooked or perverse. To the discerning, all of them are right. They are upright to those who have found knowledge. Choose my instruction instead of silver, knowledge rather than choice gold. For wisdom is more precious than rubies, and nothing you desire can compare with her. I, wisdom, dwell together with prudence. I possess knowledge and discretion. To fear the Lord is to hate evil. I hate pride and arrogance, evil behavior and perverse speech. Counsel and sound judgment are mine. I have insight, I have power. By me kings reign, and rulers issue decrees that are just. By me princes govern, and nobles all who rule on earth. I love those who love me, and those who seek me find me. With me are riches and honor, enduring wealth and prosperity. My fruit is better than fine gold. What I yield surpasses choice silver. I walk in the way of righteousness, along the paths of justice, bestowing a rich inheritance on those who love me, and making their treasuries full. The Lord brought me forth as the first of his works, before his deeds of old. I was formed long ages ago, at the very beginning when the world came to be. When there were no watery depths, I was given birth. When there were no springs overflowing with water, before the mountains were settled in place, before the hills, I was given birth. Before he made the world or its fields or any of the dust of the earth, I was there when he set the heavens in place, when he marked out the horizon on the face of the deep, when he established the clouds above and fixed securely the fountains of the deep, when he gave the sea its boundaries so the waters would not overstep its command, and when he marked out the foundations of the earth. Then I was constantly at his side. I was filled with delight day after day, rejoicing always in his presence, rejoicing in his whole world, and delighting in mankind. Now then, my children, listen to me. Blessed are those who keep my ways. Listen to my instruction and be wise. Do not disregard it. Blessed are those who listen to me, watching daily at my doors, waiting at my doorway. For those who find me find life, and receive favor from the Lord. But those who fail to find me harm themselves. All who hate me love death.
Proverbs 9.
I've got Romans. Wisdom has built her house. She has hewn her 7 pillars. She has slaughtered her beast. She has mixed her wine. She has also set her table. She has sent out her young women to call from the highest places in the town. Whoever is simple, let him turn and hear. To him who lacks sense, she says, come, eat of my bread and drink of the wine I have mixed. Lead your simple ways and live and walk in the way of insight. Whoever corrects a scoffer gets himself abuse, and he who reproves a wicked man incurs injury. Do not reprove a scoffer, or he will hate you. Reprove a wise man, and he will love you. Give instruction to a wise man, and he will be still wiser. Teach a righteous man, and he will increase in learning. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is insight. For by me your days will be multiplied, and years will be added to your life. If you are wise for yourself. If you scoff, you alone will bear it. The woman folly is loud. She is seductive and knows nothing. She sits at the door of her house. She takes a seat on the highest places of the town, calling to those who pass by, who are going straight on their way. Whoever is simple, let him turn and hear. And to him who lacks sense, she says, stolen water is sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. But he does not know that the dead are there, that her guests are in the depths of Sheol.
So we read for us Romans chapter 11, 33 through 36.
Oh, the depth of the riches of the wisdom and knowledge of God. How unsearchable his judgments and his paths beyond tracing out. Who has known the mind of the Lord? Or who has been his counselor? Who has ever given to God that God should repay them? From him and through him and for him are all things. To him be the glory forever. Amen.
This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
And this is the Holy Gospel according to St. John.
Glory to you, Lord Christ.
And Lord, we do pray that your word would always be on our minds, upon our lips, and deep in our hearts. This is John chapter 1, 1 through 5. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him not anything was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise
to you, Lord Christ.
All right, so we are in Proverbs, and I'm really excited. Proverbs is kind of a hard book to read because, it's just most of it, chapters 10 through the end, are kind of two-line sayings. Train a child up in the ways you go, and he will not depart from it. And they are generally true. And so to understand how Proverbs works, like, these things are generally true. It's not always true that if you train a child up in the way you should go, he will not depart from it. But it's generally true. If you teach a kid how to be wise, how to live as a good godly man or good godly woman in the world, they will live that way. Generally speaking. Not always, but generally speaking. And so 10 through the end are kind of these two-line riddles that are generally true. But the first 1 through 9 chapters are speeches. And there are 5 characters in these speeches. There's a good father. There is Lady Wisdom. There's Lady Folly. There's a wicked man. And then there's someone called my son, who I think is us. My son is the reader, who is trying to get wisdom from these things. It's originally written to, it's supposedly written by Solomon to the line of David. That these kings and queens who are to come would live with wisdom and not live foolishly, but would understand how the world works and live according to wisdom. I'm going to give you some definitions here, just so we're all clear on the same page of what we're talking about. The word for wisdom in Hebrew is chokhmah, and it comes from the word hakak, which means to carve. And so when kings would write their laws, there was no ink. They would carve them into stone. And these laws were designed to make living in the kingdom good and right. And so people didn't abuse each other. And so people knew exactly their weights and measures. So when they're in the streets, they know if I can give one piece of money for this much wheat or whatever, so that life becomes worth living. Hakak, to carve, is kind of what God did in the creation account in Genesis, where he carved out order from disorder. When and the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the deep, these chaos waters were threatening to overcome all of creation, and God carved out dry land. And he carved out the lights in the sky, and he carved out the creatures who would live here and would make things work well. And so it's about creating order out of disorder. Now, how do we live with wisdom? Well, wisdom, I think, and this is, I'm borrowing from John Piper in some ways here, but wisdom is first knowledge. You have to know what you're doing. You have to have a sense of facts before you can go forward. You have to have a situational awareness, like what does this particular situation call for? You have to have skill. If you know all the things, you know what the situation calls for, but you have no skill, there's nothing you can do about it. You have to have a righteous goal, like something that is actually worth doing, that you put all these things forward, and you have to have resolve that I'm going to do these things. So I'll go through these again because I want you to know them. Wisdom is knowledge plus situational awareness plus skill plus righteous goal plus resolve. And when all those things put together, you have the best chance of living in wisdom. Now, we are not perfect. Humans are just not infallible. And so you could have all these things together and still act foolishly, because only God is wise all the time. That's what Romans chapter 11 says, out all the riches and knowledge of the wisdom of God. But those things kind of come together to give us the best chance of wisdom. Now, Lady Wisdom in Proverbs chapter 8 comes and tells my son, that's us, who she is. She's basically telling us, like, this is why you should pursue me. Because sometimes foolishness is attractive. That's what Proverbs chapter 9 says. It's like, foolishness is at the gates of her city, like, come and eat my stuff, but in the end leads to death. There's a way that seems right to man, but the end leads to death. And so I want us as a people to live in a way that leads to life and order and beauty and not chaos and destruction. And so Proverbs chapter 8, I'm going to go through a little bit of this as we hear Lady Wisdom speak. Does not wisdom call? Does not understanding raise her voice? On the heights beside the way and the crossroads she takes her stand. Beside the gates of the front of the town and the entrance of the portal she cries aloud. God has organized the world in such a way that wisdom is not hiding from us. It's not that, like, we want to do the right thing, we have all the things we need to do, we have the knowledge, we have the situational awareness, but we just can't do it. And so some of this is kind of simple. Like, let's say you want to make the best lasagna for your family you can make. And so knowledge, you get the recipe. You go to, I don't know, Ina Garden or wherever you go to find this perfect recipe. And then you go to the store. You have a situational awareness of the store. You know, generally speaking, where the things are. Like, if you're gonna make a lasagna, generally speaking, the stuff you need is on the edges of the store, and you go through the aisles at the end to get your noodles or whatever. So you have a situational awareness. You have skill. You've made a lasagna before. You have a righteous end to feed your family, and you have resolve. I'm gonna make this lasagna. So some of it is not like super complicated. We shouldn't think this wisdom stuff is just beyond me. Like, we live with wisdom in some ways every day because it calls to us. It wants us to know who she is. Oh, to you, O men, I call. My cries to the children of man. You simple ones learn prudence. O fools learn sense. Here I speak noble things. From my lips come what is right. For my mouth will utter truth, and wickedness and abomination to my lips. And the words of my mouth are righteous, and nothing is twisted or crooked in them. They all straight to those who understand, and right to those who find knowledge. I think the idea here is, if you live wisely, you will live before the face of God. To seek your own pleasure, to seek your own gain, is foolishness. We find wisdom by dying, by having less of ourselves. And as we find wisdom, we live before the face of God. Verse 12, I, wisdom, dwell in prudence and find knowledge and discretion. The fear of the Lord is the hatred of evil. Pride and arrogance in the way of evil, the perverted speech I hate. A few things here. First, we have to watch our mouth. It is so easy to say foolish things. Before you even do foolish things, it's easy to say foolish things. And so we have to guard our mouth. It's kind of like listen twice, speak once. It's one of those things we just have to be careful. Verse 17, I love those who love me, and those who seek me diligently find me. We find mirrors of this in Matthew, in the Sermon on the Mount, when Jesus says, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be answered. Like, Jesus is embodying wisdom here to say, if you seek wisdom, if you seek the Lord, you will find him. You will find it. It's not hidden from you. Verse 32. And now, O sons, listen to me, and blessed are those who keep my ways. Hear instruction and be wise, do not neglect it. Blessed is the one who listens to me, watching daily at my gates, reading beside the door. For whoever finds me finds life and obtains favor from the Lord. Whatever fails to find me injures himself, and those who hate me love death. There is a connection here between wisdom and life. There's a connection. Now, the big problem here is that all of us have forsaken wisdom in one way or the other. Whether it's our words, whether it's our life, whether it's things that we want even, we've all forsaken wisdom. We've all loved foolishness and have earned for ourselves death. That's why we die, because we've loved folly. But God is not satisfied to say, do these things and live. We need a true Son of David to live wisely for us. So Jesus comes in, and he is the wisest man who ever lived. He is the one who's always had a righteous aim, who knows everything, who is resolved to do the right thing, who has who knows what he's doing, has skill. Like, Jesus alone is the true wise man. And so when he lived for us wisely, so that we can trust Jesus when he says to do things, and we can trust Jesus when he says he has done things for us, that we can know, yes, we seek wisdom. Yes, we try our best. And yes, we know that she's not hidden from us, that we can actually try to live well in the world. We can actually try to bring order to our life. We can actually try to seek beauty in the ways that we live. But ultimately, our hope is not on us being wise, but on God being wise for us. Because we don't save ourselves. Jesus alone saves. Does anybody have any thoughts, questions, or concerns?